Last time on the 328i E90 project, we took care of a few mechanical repairs and made sure this E90 is running and driving how it should. In today's video, we're gonna move on to the cosmetic issues like these yellowed and faded headlights, the heavy swirl marks all over the paint, and this shoddy repair job on the rear passenger door and quarter panel. So let's get into it on Rebuild Revival. A couple of other things that I didn't mention in the intro that we're gonna be doing is fixing up this bumper right here as well. They hit something, but the bumper seems fine. The paint's just cracked, so we'll just have to sand that down, prime it, and maybe repaint the whole bumper, but we'll definitely take care of that. There is a little hole in the bumper right here that I will add a piece of plastic, do some plastic welding, sand it down, and then obviously paint that as well. I'm gonna redo this tint as well because all those bubbles look really ugly. And we'll also be doing an interior detail. It's not too bad in here, but we'll just give the car a nice interior detail as well. I've also got some replacement side blinkers for right here, and we'll have to remove these X-Drive badges because this is not an X-Drive. Who does that? I'm gonna start over here on the rear passenger door and quarter panel. I'll start by sanding through where the cracks are in the filler down to bare metal. And then I'll feather my work area out, making a smooth, gradual transition. Then I'll just wipe it off. And then I'll just reapply filler, making sure it cures properly. And then I'll knock all the high spots down with some heavy grit like 80. And then block everything out nice and smooth, getting it ready for primer and paint. So we've got a few different layers of body filler on this, and then the last thing I put on was just some glazing putty. There was a few little tiny holes up in this area, over here, and right here. So I'm just waiting for that to fully dry so I can sand that. And then we can put on some primer and then we're ready for paint. But I will go and fix the other areas on the car. I'll start by fixing this hole and this crack right here. So we're just gonna staple it from the top. We'll get a little filler piece right here of plastic. We'll staple that in, and then we'll sand everything down and put a light coat of flexible filler over the top. So I'll start by making a little template of the plastic. That'll work. So we're just going to be using the plastic stapler. This one's by Allturn. It's from Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below. I really like this thing. It works really well. Push the bumper back together. Let it sit for a couple seconds. And then yank it out. Now I'm going to use this just to fill in some of the little holes and to cover up some of the staples. It's a plastic welder. You stick the plastic welding rod through the center, it melts it, and then you can smear it over the top. This one is Mini Weld, Airless plastic welder. I'll put a link in the description as well. Now I just noticed another crack over here on the passenger side of the bumper, so we'll repair it just like we did on the driver's side. Originally, I was just gonna repair the bumper while it was still mounted. I thought it was only gonna be just this little repair here and then maybe a little bit here. But it started to be a little bit more than that. Now we've got this other repair over here. And to do the headlights, if I wanted to remove them, I'd have to take the bumper off anyways. So I'm gonna take the bumper off because it's just gonna be easier for me to prep this bumper out and paint it with it removed. Then I can remove the headlights. Just a few bolts on the top, a few on the bottom, and then the clips are around the side, so no big deal. Whoa. The whole bracket's missing. Look at that. Ah, jeez. Talk about opening up a can of worms. So I found out why that fog light was loose, and that's because this whole bracket here is loose. I basically just need to plastic weld in these few points. That's how it's attached originally. So we'll just go around and plastic weld this bracket back on. And also on the other side, one of them is loose right here, maybe two. So we'll reattach this one as well. Now you can just do this with just the plastic welder, but I think it's easier just to throw a couple staples in. Now I'll just finish sanding down our repairs and the entire bumper, prepping it for paint. Just got done hitting it with 800 on the DA, and pretty much I've flattened everything out. Now I'm going to be using this Scuff stuff. I've never used this stuff before. I've just mixed it up, and we're going to be using a gray Scotch-Brite pad to get all of these curves and hard to get places on the inside here. And we'll just go over the whole panel as well, but definitely focusing on where I wasn't able to get with the DA. All right, so I'm all done with the bumper. It is not 100%, but it's pretty good. There are still gonna be a couple of marks here and there, and you will be able to see them a little bit in the paint, but the majority of the bad stuff is done. These two big cracks are done, and where the paint was flaking and stuff like that is all done. So this is ready for primer and paint. Now we're gonna move on to refinishing the headlights and the fog lights. So we've got the fog lights and the headlights set up here, a couple different sanders, some different grit sandpaper, and of course we've got some water with a tiny bit of soap in it. And here are what the headlights look like now. This one's pretty yellowed. The fog lights aren't that bad, but we can make them look a lot better. These could probably just be polished, but we're gonna go ahead and sand them down and clear coat them with the headlights. I'm done sanding these down. I started at 400, went to 6, went to 8, then I wet sanded with 1,000 and 1,500. So these are wet sanded all the way up to 1,500. I think it looks pretty good. This one, the yellowing, I think actually went through the lens into the plastic behind the lens. So that one's not gonna look that good. This one came out pretty good. and the fog lights actually came out really good, but they weren't that bad to begin with. So now we're just gonna prep these for paint. So we'll mask all the plastic off, get set up over here, and then we'll start shooting some clear coat. So here's a reminder of what they looked like before. All right, guys, here they are, all done. I've got them in front of this heater just to bake them a little bit. This one, the plastic under the lens is kind of yellow. I don't think it's the lens itself. I think it's the plastic underneath. So that's a little bit yellow, not gonna come out, but they still look really, really good compared to what they were. This one came out super clean. So now we just need to finish up the rest of the work and get these back on the car. Originally, I was going to try and just clear the hood or polish it, but there were just too many defects all throughout the hood, so I decided I'm gonna repaint it. Since I'm already doing some paint work on the car anyway, so we're just gonna prep this panel for paint. And I finished prepping everything for paint with the Scuff stuff and the gray Scotch-Brite pad. I just liked the finish that it left on the panel. It looked like the paint was gonna adhere to that really well. I've got everything masked off so I can start laying down some primer. We're just gonna prime in these areas here because some of these deeper scratches, I kind of went a little bit further, so I need to throw some primer on those, block all that out, prime it one more time, block it out again, and then we should be ready for paint. So I've got all this masked off and in here as well, because I do need to do some of this door jamb as well as the inside lip of this door, because I did sand into some of the primer here, and there is some filler right on that edge, so we need to prime that as well. All right, so I just wiped it down with some Prep-All, and now I'm gonna hit it with a tack cloth. All right, we're probably gonna do like 2 or 3 coats of this just to lay it on really thick. So we'll let this flash for a couple of minutes and we'll come back and do the next coat. Now I'm gonna lay down some primer on the bumper. We're definitely gonna hit it in a couple of these areas that we made some repairs and sanded it down, but I may do a sealer coat on the whole bumper just to make sure the color is uniform afterwards. That's it. All right, now I'm gonna start blocking this out. I'll probably start with 320 and go up from there. So here's how it looks after it's all blocked out. There are a few spots that I went down into the filler, and I think this is bare metal right there. So we do need to go back over with a thin layer or a thinned out layer of primer. All right, while the quarter panel and the door are drying, we're gonna jump over here and start scuffing this. Now this is not perfect. There are a few little dings and dents all over this bumper. I'm not fixing it 100%. I fixed the major cracks, the major dents, and now we're just gonna smooth the primer out so we can lay down some paint. I'm just gonna use some 1000. We'll start with that and see how that does. I'd say that is good enough. So I just wet sanded everything with 1000. I didn't hit record, but after hitting it with 320, 800 and 1000 dry, I went through and wet sanded everything with 1000. So now we're ready for base coat. We just need to clean up all this paper. It's got, you know, dust and dried up paint and everything. You don't want that flaking on to the actual base coat. So we're gonna take all of this off, clean the whole car, clean up around our area and wrap everything again, and then we'll start painting. I finally got the 328i into my paint booth. This takes me quite some time just to like put all this plastic up, plastic off the floor. I got my fan set up. It just takes time. I don't know why it takes me so much time, but it's been basically almost a day of just covering everything, including the car. But now we're ready to start laying down some base coat. We've also got the bumper over here, so we're gonna be putting base coat on the bumper. We're also gonna be doing the hood. I've decided I'm also gonna put base coat on this whole rail, the door, and the quarter panel. I don't really trust my blending skills, so even if the color is a little bit different between what's already here and what I lay down, it's still gonna look fine. So I'm just gonna finish prepping everything out. We'll wipe everything down with our prep spray or wax and grease remover. We'll do a tack cloth, and then we'll just start laying down our base coat. Well, I ran out of paint. While I was putting the second coat on the hood, that's when I ran out. I mean, I knew I was gonna run out, but I was trying to just get as much done as possible. I only got one coat of paint on the bumper. See, it's, you know, very light. You could see the primer. This was just my first initial light coat. So we're gonna scuff everything with 600 or 800 grit, and then we'll lay down some more base coat, and then eventually lay down the clear coat. It has been over 24 hours since I painted this, so we should be able to scuff it no problem. So let's start scuffing, and then we'll lay down the base coat. All right, so the last coat of clear has now been drying for about 2 hours maybe, and I need to start peeling off some of this tape where there are tape lines because I don't want to peel off the paint. So I'm just gonna start peeling some of this off. I believe you want to peel kind of at like a 45-degree angle away from the paint. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go around and peel everything else off, and we'll check it out when it's done. All right, so the paint's been sitting now for a couple of days, and obviously I've got all the plastic removed and all of that. I think I am going to have to wet sand this paint job down a little bit, but we'll see once we get it all put together. And what we're gonna do now is prep the bumper to put it back on the car. We need to install the headlights on the car first. We need to install all of the grills, these reflectors, and the fog lights, which are over there on the bumper, and then we can mount the bumper. I'm just gonna clean all of these little grills up first and hit them with some plastic restorer just to make them look nice before we get them back on the car. This stuff as well. So let's go ahead and clean these. We'll prep the reflectors, install the fog lights, install the lights, and then get the bumper back on the car. Just washed these. They're looking good. They're still faded, so I'm gonna let them dry, and then I'll put the trim restorer on those. Now I'm gonna jump over and get the headlights back in the car. So first we'll mount the brackets to the headlights, and then we'll put the brackets and headlights in the car. I forgot, but this one has a broken tab right here that I need to fix. Should look like this one right here. So we're gonna need to fix that. Okay, so here is that broken piece, or this is what it should look like. And I've got a piece of the broken headlight bracket that went to this headlight. So I'm gonna cut a piece of this off, probably that piece right here. And I'm going to plastic weld it onto here. Yeah, we'll use our plastic stapler and our plastic welder. To get the type of plastic it is, you can look at the cover here. That is upside down, but you can see it says PP, so that's polypropylene. If it was ABS, it would say ABS, or depending on what type of plastic it is, it'll say here, so we'll be using polypropylene. And I've got some polypropylene here. Just grab 2 sticks of that. Just gonna clean this surface up a little bit. And there is a crack here, so we'll fill that in as well. Okay, so I got a couple staples here. Now let's throw some on this side. So now, how this one went on here, this one will go on here. I think that'll do it. Oh yeah, that looks good. Don't mind the fingerprints. I'm not gonna wipe them off. But look at that. Super clean. And the last piece of the puzzle, just trying to put it in upside down. There she goes. So we got the refinished fog lights, put the trim restore on the grills, and obviously the refinished headlights and the chrome polish and the trim restore on these grills as well. So the next thing I need to do is start polishing the rest of the paint on this car, but I need to get this Land Rover out of the way. Maybe some of you guys follow me on Instagram and you saw this. I did just pick this up recently. I actually got it running. It didn't take much. I just charged the battery, was able to start it. I pulled all the plugs, checked those. I put the camera down. Everything looked good initially, but then I looked a little bit closer and I actually saw that each of the liners on this side, at least 3 of the 4, have this big gouge in it. And it's actually either a crack or a gouge. I don't know what this guy did to this thing. He said he did the head gaskets, which I can tell he did, but there's this big gouge or crack in the liner. So we're gonna have to pull the heads off on this thing. But for now, we're gonna put this thing into storage and then get the E90 back on this side so we have a little bit more room. As you guys can tell, this is a pretty small shop. So we're gonna pull the E90 back over here and we'll start polishing the paint. We've got the E90 pulled in over here now, and you can see here the hood freshly painted with some orange peel. I may wet sand and polish this, we'll see. I'm not sure. I want to get the rest of the car polished first and we'll kind of take it outside and see how it looks. But I'm gonna start on the worst of it, which is the roof. So you can see now how the roof looks. It's very faded and heavily scratched. And I also took a paint meter to it. It's pretty thin, 3.7. 3.7. A little bit thicker back here, but this is probably going to be the thinnest point here. And if we go onto the door jamb, so it's not much thicker than what's on the door jamb. So that means the clear coat is super thin up here. I don't really want to cut it too much. I am going to compound it with something a little bit on the lighter side to start off with, and we'll just kind of see how that looks. So as I mentioned, I tried to start off a little bit lighter and that wasn't working. So I went to some heavier compounds with some heavier pads. That still wasn't working. So as you see here, I broke out the wool pad on the rotary and that still wasn't getting through the oxidation. So I tried to wet sand. After wet sanding for a bit, I still wasn't able to get through the oxidation and I actually burned through the clear coat in one area. So I decided I'm going to have to paint this roof. Before I paint the roof, I want to try and get the scratches out on this trunk. If I can't, I'm just going to repaint this as well. But this one doesn't have any of that like deep oxidation. It's just very, very heavy swirl marks. But I'm gonna put a tape line down the middle and see how good we can get this to come out. I'm not going to wet sand. I'm just gonna hit it with the wool pad and the rotary, and then I'll polish it after that. So we'll see. Let's put the tape line and get to work. So first I'll start by clay barring the entire trunk. Then I'll hit it with a wool pad with a heavier cut compound. Move to a medium foam pad with a medium cut compound, and then finish it off with a finishing pad. And I don't have any finishing polish, so I'll have to come back through and hit it with some finishing polish. Whew, look at that. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen a worse condition paint than this. Look at that. And this still has a lot of little defects in it, some deeper scratches, and a lot of little chips all over the paint. I'm not really worried about this. There's a little bit of haziness. I need to go and get a finishing polish. I ran out of finishing polish. Look at the difference in that. So I'm happy with this. I don't need to repaint this. It will look even a little bit better once we get outside. It always looks worse in the shop lighting. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of the car, just the same process. It is not as bad as this trunk was, but it's close. We basically have the quarter panel, both doors, front fender on this side. We'll do the bumper. And then on this side, we just have the front door and that fender. All right, guys, check this thing out. Just picked this up today, actually. I've been wanting to get one. Yeah, this is the 1.5 inch head. I've got the finishing pad on it right now. I've already went through wool, microfiber. The polishing pad is this yellow, and now I'm just hitting it with the finishing pad. Makes it super easy to get into these tight areas. And now we got to take these little black stickers off. This is not very safe, but I'm going to stay pretty far back. Oh yeah. Trunk's looking good. All right, now I want to polish this guy, but I'm going to do it with 2 hands, so I'm going to set the camera. All right, all polished up. Emblem's looking fresh. I've got this whole side of the car done, minus the bumper, minus the rocker cover. But this whole side of the car is done. Fender, doors, quarter panel, and this rail. And it's looking good. There are still some deeper scratches that I could have spent a little more time on, but that's all right. That's looking pretty good. You can see my big mess back here in the reflection. And me. So I would say that that is good. I do want to uncover the hood and see how that paint matches. So let's pull this off. Looks good to me. I think that color match is gonna be just fine. All right guys, I was just editing some of the footage I have on this car and I've got way too much footage. And all of the steps are pretty repetitive. You know, painting this is the same as painting that, polishing that side is the same as polishing this side. So I'll just come back and show you when I am completely done with the exterior of this car. It's pretty much the same thing, polishing, painting, and then putting some odds and ends back on. So I'll show you when it's done. All right guys, check it out. The roof is all painted. The whole car is completely polished. Everything is put back together. I've got all the trim, like the roof rail trim, the door trim that goes around the top on the car is all on. It's looking really good. There is some dust sitting on it now because it has been a couple of days since I painted this. But overall, the car is looking super clean. So a few things I still need to do on the car, which some of them are sitting up here. Just reinstall a new cabin filter with the cabin filter cover. I've got the windshield wipers here. Those will go on after the new cowl cover I've got. The cowl cover is here. The old one is there. I got to swap over some parts. I've got a replacement cup holder for one of the cup holders inside because one of them is broken. A replacement headlight switch because the one in the car, it pushes inside like this, which I feel like is a common thing. I've seen that on a lot of cars, so I need to swap that out. I've also got a touchscreen Apple CarPlay setup that I'm gonna be putting in. This car didn't come with a screen or an iDrive controller. So this kit allows you to add a screen into the dash. You have to cut the dash. Here's a template right here. You need to cut the dash and then add this iDrive controller in the center console. As you can see here, there is no iDrive in this car. It'll go right where this little cubby is. And then the screen will go into the dash right here. So we do need to cut the dash, which will be pretty cool. And do a deep clean on these wheels. They're very dirty. Of course, remove these little black stickers off of the emblems. I don't know who likes that. And like I just mentioned, deep clean the interior. It's not too bad. I'll probably remove the front seats. For some reason, the back seat was already removed, so we've got that out already. I also need to detail the engine bay. When I did the engine replacement, I did wash the engine and the engine bay. Now it's dusty, but it was deep cleaned. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna clean this, if I'm gonna do it traditionally or just kind of wipe everything down, we'll see. So I'm gonna start by removing the seats, which will make the interior detail go a little bit easier, and it'll give me more room to install this touchscreen CarPlay. First, we'll remove a couple of trim panels and modules. Then we'll position the cutout template where it's supposed to go. Then we'll cut the hole in the dash. We'll hook everything up to make sure everything is working properly. Then we'll mount the screen. Hook up the iDrive controller, which isn't really an iDrive controller because there is no iDrive system. It just controls the screen. And put all the modules and trim pieces back in the dash. All right, all done in here. Here's a quick overview of how I ran the backup camera wiring from the camera to the screen. I am going to post a separate, more detailed video of this install, so if you're interested, look out for that. All right, now we're going to jump into the interior detail. This thing is pretty dirty, so let's check out some before shots. Okay, so here's what we're working with before. You can see we've got that big stain there. Lots of trash. Some money. Now I'm going to swap out this broken cup holder. It's pretty easy. You just pop off this trim. A couple of screws hold the cup holder in. You can slide that one out, slide the new one back in, reinsert the screws, and then pop the trim piece back on. And the headlight switch is just as easy. You just need to pop both of these trim panels off, disconnect the connector, reconnect the connector, and then pop both trim pieces back on. And of course I need to get rid of these black stickers, and boom, back to BMW blue. Now we'll jump into cleaning up this engine bay. I'm just gonna spray it down with some of this tough stuff, scrub it with a brush, and then wipe everything down. I wiped everything down here in the engine bay. I also got the new cowl cover put on. And now I'm going in with the fresh cabin air filter. This thing is massive. So here's the new one, and there is the old one. All right guys, we're about to wash the car now. I'm going to start with the wheels. This one's not too bad, but this one over here, I think is probably the worst. So I really want to see how well this new product that I just got works. It's this product right here, Brake Buster. So we'll see how this stuff works. We're gonna start with the wheels, and then we'll do the rest of the car. I've got this taped up right now because I did glue this trim piece back onto the clips. So we're just gonna leave that tape on for now, no big deal. Here's a good before, and here is after. Wow, this stuff works really well. This does have a little curb rash, but it got all of the black stuff out of the curb rash, which makes it look 100 times better. So I'm happy with that. Let's go do the other three. So I don't know if some of you guys have noticed or not, but sometimes I do things a little bit backwards. I have completely detailed every inch of this car, interior, exterior, engine bay, the trunk, the wheels, tires, everything. And now I'm gonna try and remove the back window tint. I just got a quote to remove it. It's a little bit higher than what I thought, so I'm gonna try it myself. So as you can see, I've got a lot of towels underneath there. I even put some plastic down, but it's very bubbled. It makes the car look really bad. So I'm gonna try and remove it myself. And like I said, I've got everything covered because this thing is so clean. I don't wanna get any footprints or some of the spray that I'm gonna use. I'm gonna be using a steamer. It's probably going to make a big mess. So I tried to cover everything as best as possible. And here is the steamer that I'm gonna be using. This one is from Harbor Freight. I've only used it like once, maybe twice. It's been a little while, so I don't know how well it works. So let's jump into it and see how this goes. This stuff is not coming off. That sucks. Okay, I ran out of water, so I need to refill this, but I didn't want to stop and grab the camera because it was going so well. I changed the tip on the steamer to where it's coming out less pressurized and just more like a fog. I'll show you here in a second, and it started going really well. I got the hang of it, didn't want to stop, so I just kept going. But yeah, it's coming off now. So I'm gonna set the camera up and do the rest of this, and hopefully you guys will be able to see a little bit of what's going on. It does come off pretty easy once you get the hang of it. So I've got this attachment on. Like I said before, I gotta hurry because I just made an appointment to get this replaced. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm just gonna saturate what is left with the steam, just get it all nice and hot and wet, and then I'm gonna start peeling. So you can see I have this big piece already peeled, so I'm just gonna go where it's still stuck, and it seems, oh, see, I just messed it up. It seems to help if I do it from the top a little bit as well. So basically go like this, and I don't even know if you're gonna be able to see with all the steam. Like that. So now I'm just gonna go underneath, get everything all nice and hot and wet, all down there. I've only used the razor blade a little bit just to kind of start a piece if I need to start a little piece like this one here. There we go. It's definitely easier if you take your time and go with one big piece instead of rushing it and then little pieces start peeling off like that and like this over here. I mean, I'll be able to get this again, but let's continue. All right, now I need to remove all of this glue that is still on the window. And I saw a guy use this stuff right here. This totally awesome stuff. We're gonna see if it works. So we'll just spray it on there, and then I will use a fine Scotch-Brite to try and get all of this glue off. So let's do that. Now, I'm not scrubbing very hard. Oh yeah, this is taking it off easy, because you don't want to mess up the defroster. All right, no more tint. That wasn't too bad. It probably took me maybe an hour, hour and a half. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for today's video and the series on this salvaged E90. We did a complete cosmetic refresh on this LCI E90, including some paint and body work, a 3-step paint correction, replaced that ugly bubbling window tint, refinishing the headlights, deep cleaning the wheels, engine bay, and interior. Then I updated the car with a touchscreen Apple CarPlay with backup camera. And now this iconic 3 Series is ready for its new owner. So if you enjoyed this video or this series, definitely hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video.